Welcome back to Insights from the Couch. Hi, everyone. Laura and I are here for another great episode today. We love this one as therapists, and I think you're going to love it too. We're going to be talking about self-care. Self-care is an inside job. It's not what you think. Even if you think you know what it is, it's probably not what you think. So we're going to get into what it's not, what it is, and how to have a self-care practice that really serves you so you can live your best life at midlife. And along those lines, we also have just launched the Midlife Masterclass. We've been doing this with women in person here locally in Orlando, but we're bringing this online so we can bring the group to women all over the world. This is really about leveling up and thriving at midlife. So again, you can live your best life, and we're going to cover all the things that we talk about here on the podcast, many of the things in this Midlife Masterclass. So if you're interested in that, check out our website, insightsfromthecouch.org, and join the wait list if you'd like to work with us. So let's dig into the meat of the episode, though. Self-care. Laura, I'll let you have the first word.
Well, I kind of hate the word self-care. It's like one of these words in our culture that I feel like Oprah brought this about back in the late 90s. Yeah. And I remember women standing up being like, I feel so guilty if I focus on myself.
Yeah.
And we've come a long way from that. I think people understand, at least intellectually, that they need to put energy back into themselves. Mm-hmm. But now the word self-care has become very, I don't know, like overused, signifying nothing. Everything's an act of self-care.
Right.
And I mean,
including consuming alcohol, right? Like yes. wine, t-shirts and whatever, which is a neurotoxin and obviously is not caring for yourself.
Yeah, and I think there's a big difference between real self-care and faux self-care, so maybe we need to start there.
All right, let's get into what's not self-care and faux self-care. And along the lines, I love how, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Dr. Pooja, who wrote the book Self-Care. Yeah, she's a psychiatrist and really has a framework for these 4 principles of self-care that we can talk about a little bit more. But I love how she says faux self-care is usually, it's something that comes from the outside. It's something we're told to do that we should be doing. So obviously this is constructed by society so that people can sell things, their products, their spa experiences, their vacations, their injections, right? Self-care is Botox and a day at the spa. So yep. I'm not saying that those things might not make you feel good, but that is not what self-care is. That may be upkeep if something like that is important to you. But Pooja also talks about the fact that self-care is usually a noun, right? It's a thing. It's a thing that you're supposed to do to check the box. And we're here to say it's not a manicure. Self-care is something that comes from inside of you, and it's about the way you see yourself, the way you connect to your internal power, the way you define your values, the way you talk to yourself, and along the lines of what kind of nouns or verbs you engage in that might make you feel better. Those things come from having a self-caring relationship with yourself so that you can know what you need when and give yourself that. So let's really talk about it because it's going to be unique to everyone. What's self-care to me isn't going to be self-care to you. And I think, though, people have to understand that if you're not giving yourself permission and you're not attuned to yourself and you're not kind to yourself, it's going to be very difficult to come up with a self-care regimen that makes sense and that sticks.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with so much about what you just said. I think that like the top-down method is what women get into. And like really, I was listening to some podcast where it says it's really normal for women to spend like 10% plus of their income on upkeep.
Right.
Or what she calls performing femininity, which I know is important to a lot of women.
Right.
But it's also a little bit of a cultural hose job.
Oh, totally.
Where it's like, I've got to go get, my eyebrows done and my Botox or whatever. And the top down approaches are like really the least of it. It's the bottom up stuff that you're talking about having boundaries, the way you talk to yourself. I think embodiment is such a huge piece of it. Like anything that gets to being really embodied, where you can really rest, which I think women are, I'll speak for myself, I can be terrible at. I think so many of us are caught in the like culture of busyness.
Right.
I can run around my house in circles all day, but to rest is very hard sometimes. And I think that like a lot of women can't even get on that frequency.
Oh, I agree. And we still have hustle culture. We still deify the busiest, most achievement oriented person, whether we admit it or not. Even when we reject that concept intellectually, there's still something to that. Plus, let's be clear here. We're not saying don't do any upkeep or that that's bullshit.
No.
You know, I'm vain to a degree. Like I go sit in that stupid chair and dye my hair and get these nails done. And honestly, I hate it. I don't like beautifying things, but I want the results of it. So those things aren't bad if they make you feel good. It's just that's not really what self-care is. And also we need to be honest about the fact that, to your point, those are societally contrived notions about how women should look that for so many of us, even when we say, oh, I don't care about men if you're heterosexual or women if you're not, or whatever else you're into, whoever you want to like desire you sexually. I don't care about that. I'm doing it for me. Yes, and we also, as women, have absorbed and internalized society's expectations of how women should look so greatly that we can't even separate the two. I mean, shaving your legs, for example.
Yeah.
I'm disgusted when I don't shave my legs. It makes me feel dirty and gross. No shame.
But that's a construction right there.
That's a construction
this is not this
right
podcast.
there. Exactly. Women have hair under their arms and legs, and I'm not willing to grow that hair. Kudos to you if you are. But that's something I believe is about how I feel about myself, but it's still been imposed on me. So another piece of what it's not, though, is it's not escapism. Let's not confuse it with upkeep, and let's not confuse it with escapism. Again, it doesn't mean there's no value to escapism or that.
Define escapism.
Okay.
Like, let's define all the things that go in that
Are you
bucket.
ready? Because I have a PhD in escapism. So hang on. I can rattle this off. So drinking, drugs, food, vacations, shopping, attention from people that you want to find you sexually attractive. You know, anything.
Binging TV, scrolling on the phone.
Doom scrolling. Exactly.
I was arguing with my daughter about this because we're kind of arguing about the concept of like cognitive offloading. I guess she learned this in school, is this term about where it's like a lot of people play video games or they do something, or she was doing like a color by number on her iPad. And it's a soothing technique, but I don't think it quite hits that level of like replenishment, that like good real self-care. So there's something like very distinguishable between these.
Right. What you're getting out of it. And again, I think to the point of escapism and cognitive offloading and replenishment, there is something to, a balanced life. I believe we do need some of these other pieces. I don't feel bad that there may be a Saturday that when I could be out doing 10,000 things, I want to binge watch Sirens, even though it's not even that good and whatever. I just lost 5.
That's another conversation.
Yeah, I just lost 5 hours of my life. But it could even arguably be part of self-care if I'm connected to myself to say that day, you know what I really need today is to not think, is to be entertained and just lose myself. Now, if I'm spending all day, every day, avoiding life, escaping life, and on a television screen that isn't really giving anything back, that's another thing. But just to understand that those activities in and of themselves don't bring replenishment, they bring a way to check out. It's a little dissociative. get us out of our
Yes.
heads. And there is a time and a place for that. But I think it does all come down to your relationship with yourself, how connected you are to yourself so you know what you need when you need it, giving permission to yourself to do what you need when you need it, and then the way you talk to yourself and narrate those things, letting go of guilt, having really good boundaries, and being kind to yourself in your internal dialogue. I mean, you see the same thing I see in therapy. People
Yeah.
talk to themselves like they're pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's knowing how to like dial up and dial down based on where you're at in your life. Like knowing when you need a moment of cognitive offloading, knowing when you need a moment of connection, knowing where you are in your own life that like, can you handle watching the news? Like, do you even
Right.
have the space
Right.
for that? Do you have the space for like your family shit?
Right.
And a phone call with your mom or your sister or whoever.
Yep.
Like if that's a no, that's something that it's like you're constantly in conversation with yourself.
Yes.
Like where am I at and what do I need next?
Exactly. And what's happened, and then let's get into like what it is and how we're doing this and how I see it, at least. And then I want to hear how you see it. But I think what's happened with the way the term self-care has changed, and I love you pointing to Oprah because she's probably responsible for almost everything in modern not pop culture,
Yes.
but self-help.
Self-care culture.
Yes. And the whole self-help movement kind of started there.
Yeah.
But I think what's happened is that because women have historically felt that they were selfish if they thought about themselves at all, and now that all these commercial products and activities have seized on self-care as a way to sell products and goods, what's happened is that women, in order to almost justify it, it's like, oh, self-care, right? I'm doing this. I'm going to spend 10 grand, on a weekend. Self-care, right? And we don't need that. We don't need to justify self-care. And you go on the weekend, spend 10K, spend $1 million if you have it, do whatever the fuck you want to do. Okay. But let's also make sure real self-care is happening, because otherwise you can spend all the money, go to all the spas, do all the things, and still feel a bottomless pit of emptiness and
Yes.
emotional exhaustion inside of you if you're not doing the things that really matter.
Yeah, self-care is really simple. It's really elegant. Yep. It's not complicated. You shouldn't have to really buy anything to do it.
Exactly.
It's super simple.
So this is how I see it, and then I want to hear your recipe, and then let's talk a little bit too about like what we do for self-care, because I haven't even thought about this. I feel like it's such an automated thing now. To me, after working at this for years, and again, as therapists, being really dialed into the importance of this, that I don't even know how I'm going to answer that question. But what I do know is that I see a couple of pieces being very key to this. One, boundaries. I mean, you cannot, there's no way you're doing well if you don't have boundaries. It's impossible. I see balance also as being key to self-care, that we can't let our lives, I know it can be difficult when there's competing demands, but when life gets out of balance, there should be fun. There should be work that's meaningful. There should be connection. There should be alone time. And obviously some people have much more fixed, immutable challenges in their lives that make that more difficult. We have to work with what we have. But as much as we can, trying to stay in balance, I think, is important. I see connection as critical for self-care. Doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. In fact, you may be happier if you don't have one. But you have to have your close inner circle people that you spend time with, that you laugh with, and that also you can really talk about the real stuff. I see that as critical to self-care. And to me, those components are like, and implicit in all of that is being really connected to yourself.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with those components. Boundaries for sure. I think self-compassion is another one.
Yep.
And that goes in the self-connected, like how you're talking to yourself.
So important.
That you can get a huge boost out of that. I mean, just normal, I love the self compassion, or what is it? The suffering prayer.
Yeah, the suffering
Like
mantra.
the mantra. Yeah. We'll include that in the show notes, but that's just like normalizing if you're going through stuff and giving yourself grace. And, again, back to like knowing what your bandwidth is and knowing like what you need, like to say, I need to go to breakfast with my friend and connect, and I need to be able to talk about what's going on.
Right.
Or I need to shut down and kind of like be in the house for a day. Or I need to watch Pride and Prejudice for like the 100th time.
Right. And so let's,
whatever it is you need.
whatever it is you need. So let's go through some of these things, including, let's start with the self-compassion piece. And we can attach that to, if you go to insightsfromthecouch.org, check out our download section and sign up for our community, because we really want to engage with you guys on a whole different level and be able to talk some of these things through. And we can include this piece on the suffering mantra in there. It's from Kristen Neff's work, groundbreaking work on self-compassion. It's so different from, now I feel like it's such an accepted thing, but it's really a breakthrough, because it's not about necessarily building self-confidence or self-esteem. It's about building self-acceptance and treating yourself with kindness. The cliche that's so true is when you say to somebody, what would you say to a friend if they just made a huge mistake and were mortified? Usually I'll hear something in therapy, like I would tell her, it's okay, you did your best. And of course you feel embarrassed, but you're going to learn a lot from this. And right. And
but
then
that's not how we talk to ourselves.
Right. And then I'll say, well, what would you say to yourself? How could you fuck that up, you moron? You knew you should have practiced more. I knew you weren't doing enough. Now everyone sees that you're stupid. And I'm not being hyperbolic. These are the ways. Right. I know you know that, but for our listeners, you guys, this is, maybe you relate to it, but even if you don't talk to yourself quite that harshly, it's a real cultivated practice to learn to tune in. And the suffering mantra, I always put my hand on my heart, but it's really about saying, this is a moment of pain, or this is a moment of suffering. Like right now, I am suffering. I am hurting. And let me be kind to myself and acknowledge what I feel. And let me remember that other people in the world are suffering with me, because we get a lot of comfort from the universality of knowing other people are. If you're going through a breakup, there's other people all over the world right now crying the same tears over some loser. The one day they'll look back and say, what the was I thinking?
Why did I waste 5 minutes?
But in the moment, you're heartbroken. And then also, it doesn't mean you're not going to learn from it. It just means you're giving yourself a little love and validation. And this is the first step in self-care, because if we're not nice to ourselves, then we
can't advocate for ourselves.
Right. And you can't really replenish, which we're identifying as the heart of self-care. And I totally agree with you on that, if it doesn't start with kindness turned inward.
Yeah, that it's like absolutely step one. So it's that inside job of just that shift in how you speak to yourself and how you are mindful of what you're experiencing in any given moment.
And for example, I know this is definitely the cornerstone of my own self-care. I have for a long time now changed the way I speak to myself. I don't think I was ever super harsh. I wasn't criticized a ton as a child, and we tend to internalize also the way we hear parents speaking or the way we're spoken to. So because my parents were pretty kind-hearted with me and accepting, I don't think I have a virulent inner critic. But I used to say things like, oh my God, how could you have done that? That wasn't good enough. Now you look like an idiot. I would say things like that. And now what I'll say to myself is much different. And I'll say, okay, what can I learn? And I'll ask myself, did I do my best? And if I did, I will validate that, but also say, it's okay to feel disappointed that it didn't turn out the way you hoped. And now let's move forward and shift lanes and recognize that this is part of life, and this is so it's the way I like to think of it as, how would you talk to a child that you really, really cared about at their worst moment? That's how we should
Yeah.
be talking to ourselves.
Yeah. And paradoxically, it gives you a little bit of space to make better choices.
Right.
I mean, I've gotten a lot better at this, and not getting like off to the races and blended with those thoughts.
Right.
And where I'm, because I do have like sort of more of a scathing self-critic. But now I can definitely soften that. And that's been a huge improvement. And then go like, what do you want to do next? Like, how can you care for yourself? And most of my most replenishing activities are when I can get really into my body. And that's the level that I think is really hard culturally for people to get into, is that somatic level of breath and rest and like rhythmic movement even, where it's like you can kind of replenish. I think that's so replenishing for the system.
Oh, I agree. And just for listeners who may not really be so tapped into the language of embodiment, it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's being really in your body and connected to your body. And the reason that's so important, I mean, first of all, so many of us live exclusively here, and this is one important organ, but we've got a whole system here that's working for us and sending us signals. And some people don't get connected with the body at all. And we know movement is so healthy.
And the harder the time you're in, like, I mean, this is what I see in clients is like that they come in and something's going on in their life and it's survival mode. When you're in survival mode, it's on to the one thing to the next thing. It's that culture of busyness where you just can't sink down a layer into the body. Right. So if you're in a time like that, compassion, and see if you can just drop in. Yeah. And you're not going to drop in for long.
Right.
I think that's the other thing is where it was like we always have to be present. We're not going to be present all the time.
Your thoughts are wandering.
A lot of people are working on that. Like that's their job.
I know.
Is to be present for everything. And I'm like, if you can be present for like a minute, let's try that.
Yeah, for 10 seconds. Like start wherever. But also we know monkey mind, it's been well researched, more than 50% of their time, their mind is wandering. So we're not trying to be Buddha and sit under the tree in a permanent state of enlightenment. We're trying to have moments that we're really connected, that we're in our bodies, that we're in movement, that we're doing things that replenish. And back to the point for you guys out there who this is going to look different for everybody. Yoga is a great way to get into your body and to be present. I hate yoga. I absolutely hate it. Okay. I don't enjoy it. And it doesn't mean I hate, yoga. No, it's not a disparagement on yoga. I don't not see the value. It isn't good for me. And there's a variety of reasons, but some of it is also physically. It doesn't feel good to my body physically. A lot of those movements, I get nauseated. I don't like it. I don't like being close to smelly body. I don't know. I don't like it. I've tried every kind. I've spent years trying. So that isn't going to be it for me. But for me, going for like a long walk, and I really like to do a long walk, light jog, like a little bit of like intervals. I like to get my heart rate a little. I like to be out in nature. I don't listen to music. I prefer even going by myself. That is a time that I feel very replenished. I feel very connected to myself, to the natural world, which is very restorative. And we know awe has tremendous psychological power, meaning seeing beautiful scenery is quite transformative for people. And I feel very refreshed and invigorated. So that's my version of that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like figure out not just what's checking a box, what's going to make me look more fit or more toned, or what's going to help me build muscle mass. That's important too. But
how is it making you feel?
Right. Is this refreshing, recharging, rejuvenating me at a cellular soul level?
So let's talk about what makes the short list of self-care routines or like things that really replenish. Like I'm going to second your walk and the run. I mean, I've talked about it a million times, but Saturday mornings is like probably the most like delicious time of my week when I know I do like a very big extended walk run type situation. It's always in nature. It's always alone. It always drops me way into my body.
Me
I
too.
can get in contact with myself in a way that I'm not probably able to be in all week. I look forward to it. It's sacred.
Yeah.
No one's getting to that.
That
So
I feel the
we
same
have the
way.
same
I
one.
feel the same way. And I think there probably
Yeah.
are a lot of people who relate to it. So for me, getting back to balance, I know that taking good care of myself, first of all, we haven't said it quite this way, but I think it's implicit in what we're saying. Really, not just being connected to yourself, but really knowing yourself. If you had 8
Knowing.
kids and they had all different personalities, they would need different things. I need different things than some other people. So I know for me, being self-caring with balance means I need work that I find invigorating and stimulating. I need to be intellectually challenged. I need moments of boredom, but I'm going to reframe that in a minute. But I need to be stimulated. And it's not because I can't sit still with myself. It's because that's how I feel at my best. I love to learn and I'm very curious and I'm very into growing and getting better and knowing more things. Not for achievement reasons. I just enjoy it. So I need to be doing that. But also, I need to be having fun. I have a very fun oriented, right? On the Enneagram, I'm a 7 for people who have done that. On Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFP. I'm an extrovert. I need to be with people. I need to laugh. I need to meet new people. I need to go places and have adventures. So, of course, real life, finances, obligations. I can't just do what I want all day, every day, like the hedonist I wish I was. But I know that good self-care for me is going to mean going on a walk, giving myself permission to have a quiet day by myself when I need it, realizing, wow, I haven't seen friends in a while and I need to get out and laugh with people. Like just this weekend, I went out with Curran in Delray. I went to visit her. And we went out and danced and sang and we had so much fun. It was just joyful. I found that
Yeah,
even though I
yeah.
was exhausted, I found that very replenishing. So I think the balance and getting into your body and all of that comes down to really knowing you and like, what are the things that fill me up?
Yeah, I agree. And this is so personal. So like whatever works for you works for you.
Right.
But some of the same, we're totally different, but like I have some of the same things. I mean, I have to have connection with people at some point. I'm an introvert, but like I need deep conversation
Me too.
and deep connection. I need intellectual stimulation. And I definitely need a creative process.
Me too.
And usually it involves like paint or like my home. I need to be able to use leverage my imagination for things. And that's a really healing process for me. So not being able to do that for a while is super depleting. Yeah, a creative process. And that's where I think like those things are different than just doing a paint by number on your iPad.
Yeah, I agree. I need to feel creative. I need a creative outlet too, and that can change what that is. But I want to add one other piece to this that's very important for me for self-care that some of you guys might relate to. I need space to just be. I need it almost more than I need anything else. I really love to engage with people and be with people, and I love alone time. I'm talking about something totally different. I need the kind of time built into my week somewhere where I don't have anywhere I have to be. I don't have to put on makeup. No one's waiting on me, even a friend, even something fun, nothing. I can putter around my house and like
puttering.
Yeah, I need to putter and be able to think and be and like either pat around barefoot at home or go run an errand where my mind gets to just wander.
That's such a great point. I need it too. And it goes back to balance because too much of that can get super stale, but like that day where you're like, I don't have to be anywhere.
Yes.
I'm not on anybody's schedule today.
Yeah. And the freedom in your own head, the freedom to not be, because a lot of times as I'm in a season of tackling so many things and I'm into them, it's not like I don't want to be doing them, but sometimes it can feel like every day is, okay, today I got to write this speech and then I've got to figure this out and this social media video and these 4 clients. And there's so many things on my plate. I just love the time when I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to be creative for a delivery. I don't have to be anything. I can just think about like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if the alphabet was said backwards? And oh, squirrel, like nothing and everything. The freedom.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
So I think that's important for everybody probably to some degree.
And I don't know if we want to lump this into self-care because I'm not sure it is, but it's something I'm working on because I've noticed how bad I am at it in this, and I think a lot of us are, is I'm trying to do one thing at a time. I'm trying to settle into a task. I'm like squirrel all the time. Like, oh my God, what do I have to do? I have to do this. I have to do that. I'm here, I'm there. And like, I'm trying to settle my system. And one of the things that has become like increasingly difficult is just reading.
I know.
And just
their attention spans are shot.
Yeah, they're just shot. But I want to settle and be like, I want to be at peace. And again, it's like that sinking into the body.
I agree.
Sinking into presence. I've noticed how challenging it's become.
I agree.
And I don't like it.
I'm with you on that.
And so for me, it's an act of self-care is to like flex that muscle.
I'm going to go with you on that one. I agree. And you know, let's just, as we wrap up here, I can't believe we didn't say it. Obviously, this applies to us and it might not apply to you. But reading for me is, even though my attention span is shot, reading is self-care for me. When I don't have to be reading something necessarily, I like to read for things that relate to work too. But reading fiction, reading memoir, reading a really good book and knowing I can sit there and read as long as I want and be completely lost in the story, that does replenish me. It's not just escapism. Yeah. That is an act of love for me to spend time with a good book.
I agree.
I want to go do that right now, but I have a client coming in, so we have to wrap up.
All right. So yeah, no, these were good today. I think that we fleshed it out, and it's, you know, it's not it's not going to get your eyebrows waxed.
Yeah. And spend some time thinking about balance, boundaries, connection, and the concept of replenishment, because this is not about obviously what works for me or Laura. This is about what works for you. And you got to really get connected to yourself to figure out what that is and then be realistic about your life. If you're a young mom with 3 kids at home, then that's going to look in terms of how much time you have to devote to this. But like most things in life, it's quality over quantity. So whether you have 10 minutes, 10 hours, or 10 days to devote to self-care, make it good, make it quality, make it something that's going to really refresh and replenish you. And we'll have more on this episode, as well as, again, our Midlife Masterclass. We are taking applications on the waiting list now, and it'll be launching in a few months. So check out our website, insightfromthecouch.org, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.